Hi, we're so glad you're back. Today we're working on a project in the vegetable beds and we are pruning our tomatoes. Now, there are some different schools of thought about pruning tomatoes. You don't have to. A lot of people don't. If you have a big area, you can just let them sprawl. One of the reasons that you do prune is to increase air circulation. That helps you to keep a healthier plant. Also, if you prune your tomatoes, you may get a little bit fewer, but you get bigger ones because they have room to grow. So let me talk to you a little bit about some of the pruning we're going to do today. There are two types of tomato plants. One is an indeterminate, which means it's kind of vining and it can grow really, really tall. The other one is determinate, which means in its genes it has a set size that it's going to grow to and then it'll stop. Determinate you don't really want to prune because you don't need to. It's kind of built into its DNA. The indeterminate are ones that we kind of have to keep under control a little bit. Indeterminate though, you don't want to top it unless it's already grown as tall as you want it to and you want it to stop growing at the top. But typically we don't do that. We just thin out the middle and pull out the suckers and that's good to go. So let me show you what the suckers are and then show you some of the things I'm going to prune out. Okay, so you can see right here we've got a main stem, we've got a leaf stem, and then we have two suckers. Generally, you'll want to pull out these suckers when they're just that small, and you can just take your fingers and just pull them out. But when they're this big, you're going to want to use some scissors or some small snips to cut those out so you don't damage the plant. I've already used alcohol wipes on this set of pruners so that I don't introduce any disease. You're just going to cut them out like that. You'll see it's kind of just at the elbow of these two. You'll see this one's a thicker stem, this one's a leaf stem, and then the suckers will come out from there. You want to kind of keep up on it. See, here's another one, just barely starting to grow, so I'll just pull that out. And then this one is a little bit bigger, so I will cut that out. And these suckers, you can let them grow because they will produce some tomatoes down the road. But again, like I said, you get bigger tomatoes if you thin out the suckers. Okay, so if you'll see, we've got this trellis that we want our tomatoes to grow up. But if you look here on the outside, they're starting to take over the vegetable bed and they're starting to crowd out the peppers. So we're going to cut out some of these that are tending to grow outwards so that we can tie up the more vertical growing and we can keep them in their space. You always want to prune out leaves that are touching the ground because leaves that touch the ground will get introduced to diseases a lot easier. They'll get splashed back from the soil and then they'll spread the disease to the other plants. So you definitely want to prune out anything touching the ground. You'll see here we have a damaged leaf here, so we'll cut that out in the middle. So we have two plants here and then we have two plants in the other bed and we're just gonna get after it. Okay, now that I've cut some of these lower leaves away, you can see where the central leader is to this tomato plant. Now, some people, they will prune everything that is really bushy away from it, but I don't think we're gonna do that. I'm not extremely skilled in pruning tomatoes, so I'm gonna be cautious with this, but I think there are some that I feel comfortable in pruning off, but you can just see where the central leader is. And we've already got some tomatoes that are ripening. These are sun sugar. They got mislabeled, and so I thought this was the Cherokee purple, but the Cherokee purple's over there, so I gotta switch the tags. All right, well, we're just gonna keep going. All right. sounds good. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take my Velcro tape that I've used for our espalier, and I'm going to attach this branch to the trellis so that it can start growing upwards. It's okay to have more than 1 liter. You can have 2 or 3. But I mean, like I said, you can do your tomatoes however you want. I just like to prune them so that they look tidier and they are healthier. And again, just like on the trees, you put the soft side against the plant and then it closes itself together. All right, 1 done. 3 more to go. For now, I'm going to call it good. I don't want to cut too much off. Another tip is you want to make sure you're doing this on a dry day when you're not going to get any rain, because you've made all these cuts so that there's open wounds now on this tomato, and if it started raining, that would introduce bacteria and that could damage your plant. So let's just tie this one up. This would be a lot easier without gloves, but I like to wear gloves when I'm working for a while with tomatoes because they've got little slivers along the stem and my skin just gets irritated. This one I'm just going to leave for now. I'm just going to watch it, even though it's heading into the garden. I just don't want to traumatize the plant too much. So I'm going to watch it. I may cut it off a little bit later this season. All right, let's move over to the other two. Okay, these 2 tomato plants right here, I was being really lazy. Normally, before you plant a tomato plant, you'll pull off all the leaves that are close to the ground. I didn't. And so now we've got mini plants growing up, because as soon as you put the stem of the tomato underground, it's got, I don't remember what it's called, but it's got properties that allow it to root. So I'm gonna have to cut out a bunch of this so that it's tidier and not so overgrown. Look at those tomatoes. I didn't even realize we had those. That's another thing, is you uncover the plants or the fruit that you have when you prune out the extra leaves. And it'll still have plenty of leaves to gather all the energy. You see right there, there's another example of a sucker. I'm just gonna pull that out. This one we haven't tied up at all, so it's really struggling. So we're gonna just tie that up right now, and then we can see if we need to cut any more. See, this plant right here has 2 liters. So we're going to tie it have to kind of be gentle, but also tomatoes are tough plants. Okay, and as I am seeing this, tying this, I see this sucker, so we'll pull that out. Sometimes that happens. Like I said, tomatoes are tough, but they're also fragile, so just be careful. All right, look how loaded our aromas are. Oh my gosh. It's been a lot of years since we've grown aroma tomatoes. All right. This one we may be sacrificing some tomatoes, but
no maybe.
That was painful. But that was my own fault for not planting them correctly the first time. These are laying in the dirt, so we're gonna pull those off. Where are they? So just follow them to the stem. Oh, and you'll see there's a sucker there too, so I'm just getting them both at the same time. I think I need to pull that one out too. Ugh. Yep. Painful. Painful. Don't do what I did. Right here for now, and then as it gets taller, we'll tie some more. All right, so as that grows, we'll tie it up. See, but oh, look how much better they can breathe. I know it looks a little drastic, but I promise this is so good for the tomatoes. We're going to get a much better yield, and we're going to be able to see what we need to harvest, and just consider pruning your tomatoes. Thanks for joining us today.